Well, today is probably the last chance for any Spanish riders to win from a breakaway, and the route profile means that a break has got more than a decent chance of succeeding. Davide Villela might want to be in it too for the 10 mountain points on the first category climb after just 29 kilometres, but it's the fourth and final climb that should be the decisive one for the stage win, with only 15 kilometres from the top of it to the finishing Gijon. Now, we just heard Marc Irizar giving his considered opinion on the state of Spanish cycling to Daniel. Here he is expressing himself non-verbally on the team bus before the start. So if the lack of a home stage win is weighing on his mind, he's putting a brave face on it. There were 19 men in the day's break initially, including Irizar's Trek teammate Edward Turns, who was responsible for posting that online, Nicholas Roach of BMC, and as expected, Davide Villela. He took maximum mountain points at both the first two climbs to boost his lead to 20 over Miguel Angel Lopez. Now, there were 4 Spanish riders in the break, none of them from Movistar though, so they sent JJ Rojas and Antonio Pedrero in a chase group that also included Carlos Verona of Orica Scott and Romain Bardet of AG2R. The two groups eventually merged into a single giant break of 27 with 7 home riders in it and a lead of 14.5 minutes. So as we join the race on climb number 3, one of these 27, Spanish or otherwise, is going to win the stage.
Garcia getting low to his handlebars and Romain Bardet much more upright on his bike, but we know all about how Romain Bardet can descend, and at the moment he's just happy just to look at the Bahrain Merida rider and I guess just size him out a little bit and figure out how he's going down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that Bardet isn't just flying up onto his wheel goes to show that Garcia is a fast ascender. And at the moment, it's in Bardet's interest just to let him sit there, because he's clearly carrying on racing. He's not waiting for him. He's not taking his foot off the gas. And then use him as a marker and let him do a bit more work.
Now, the race within the race, 14 and a little bit minutes further back down the road. Team Sky have kind of dissolved and ebbed away from the very front of the race, and there's a representative of Katusha. There's a big move on the left-hand side of the road from Quick Step Floors and David de la Cruz. Astana as well, sending men forward, so that's got quite lively in the red jersey group as they think about the climb to come. And Bardet gets onto, oh, well, that's Nico Roach now.
Rui Costa.
And Rui Costa trying to get across.
Yeah. So Rui Costa is so he's taken the lead as he would on the descent, because that's a section where he can perhaps play a tactical game. But look, this is now 2 versus 2. Yeah. There's no point in playing any games here. So these two, in my opinion, are at an advantage, because Nicolas Roche with Rui Costa, it's being with Rui Costa, it's never a committed move. So these two will be aware of that. That is one thing that Bardet can expect, and so he's now just got to work, not even hesitate with this rider, and try and eye him up and try and figure out what sort of rider he is during the next 13 kilometres.
And in the meantime, Alberto Contador is at it again. They are attacking on this climb.
Zaccarin chasing. Zaccarin knows he can't let Contador go. But look, Contador, his teammate's done a fantastic job here, because he's got to rely on his teammate for as long as he can do this, because he's doing a full-on sprint. The fact that Contador can hold on to that just goes to show how strong he is at the moment. Zaccarin's just slowly picking it back, but not much. Here we go. Contador's going to have to come off this soon if he can. And it's his teammate. As his teammate explodes, that's it. He's got to go.
It's Koen de Kort who celebrates his birthday today, and Koen de Kort, that's all he could do for Alberto Contador, but he's drawn out significantly Ilnur Zaccarin. And that's not great news for Wilco Kelderman. Contador, I mean, this is how many days in succession that he's been at it like this?
I think every mountain day, apart from the day when he was dropped the mountain stage, he really has been so aggressive. And there he's distancing Zaccarin now. Zaccarin was slightly caught out. Koen de Kort's move, Alberto Contador used him. And look, Alberto Contador knows he's almost just going as hard as he can here, trying to crack Zaccarin.
Now, we're hearing unconfirmed from the road, but I'm hearing a report, David, that Edward Turns, who was in the original breakaway, one of 2 Trek Segafredo riders, might well have parked up completely some time ago, invisibly, and he'll be waiting, possibly at the top of this climb. All, though, is becalmed further down in the red jersey group. Team Sky still with strength in numbers. Nibali has not moved so far, will he? Or is he holding back for tomorrow, the man in 2nd place in GC? What can Wilco Kelderman do, who starts today in 3rd place? He has seen Ilnur Zaccarin attack from this group, and Zaccarin will be threatening to move on to the podium if he holds on to an advantage over Kelderman.
Look at this, Alberto Contador will have information. He'll know more than we do about where Edward Toynes is, and if he can count on him. In the meantime, Edward Toynes knows that this is coming, because believe me, there's race radio information, there's everything going on. They will have told him what to do, where to go, and so he'll be there awaiting Alberto Contador. Alberto Contador will be using that. That's going to be one of his major motivations at the moment, to make it to Toynes and distance Zacharine as much as possible in the process.
And with that crowd ringing in his ears, much quieter at the front of the race as Nico Roche looks like he's attacked Rui Costa and the rest of them, and asking the question about who's going to chase. Rui Costa takes the responsibility to try and peg the Irishman back at this point, with everyone else sitting on his wheel. But listen to this. This is Spain saying farewell to Alberto Contador, and Alberto Contador saying farewell to bike racing, and he's doing it in style. He's already carved out a big chunk of an advantage, some 50 seconds over the red jersey group and everyone else, and Contador is flying once again. And back to the quiet at the front of the race again, and Roche has just put this, it's interesting, isn't it, because they are looking at each other, and they haven't quite close to the Irishman yet, but he's a long way out still. Roche has got 5 kilometres. But it's delicately poised at the front. Someone's got to finally take responsibility and bring the Irishman back.
Oh, and here's a group behind as well. This is what's the remainders of the breakaway. So that's Thomas de Gent there. There's Pantano Jungle. So they're coming back up onto that group.
In fact, they can see them, can't they? So what better motor now? Thomas de Gent, for once, not being the rider who is doing all the work on the front of that group. He's sitting on Thomas de Gent.
So now, in theory, we're going to see Edward Toynes before long. Yeah, because it's got a little sort of plateau at the top before it actually drops down. Now, where he'll have chosen to wait, no doubt, when you're trying to be a teammate Contador, you wait until the descent begins, and hopefully that's where he is, for Alberto Contador's sake.
I mean, I can only stress again, we're acting on a rumour here, but it would be a clever tactical plan if that's the case. Let's just wait and see. Well, that's the situation at the back of the peloton.
So I just got here on race radio that Zacharine is 12:50 behind, so that's 12:27. That time we see there is Alberto Contador, and another 20-25 seconds behind Contador is Zacharine.
Well, Zacharine, if that's true, is moving ahead of Wilco Kelderman as Bardet attacks after they peg back Nicolas Roche. I think Bardet, quite a smart move from him. I don't think he contributed too much to the chase there, and he takes advantage of the fact and counters. 3.7k to go. They're in the town of Gijon now, and they are heading towards the seafront. Now, when they do hit the seafront, inside the final kilometre, it's left-handed onto the very seafront itself, where we understand there is a strong headwind. They may not know that, but it'll be right in their faces. Left-handed with about 600 metres to go.
They will. Normally their team DSs will have told them about their headwind. Now Garcia, for me, is in the best position here. The other 3 riders don't know what he is, who he is. He hasn't got the weight of expectations on his shoulders, and so he really can just sit on this group and call their bluff.
Well, there is Alberto Contador. No sign of Edward Toynes to support him just yet. Perhaps he's waiting further up the road as Ilno Zacharine is hauled back into the red jersey group, and Team Sky pass him on the road. But Contador is a long, long way up the road, and he is on a rampaging attack once more. That's the back of the bunch, and they head over the top of the final climb. Now it's all downhill into Gijon, and this is the very front of the race, and it's all come back together again. Is that Thomas de Gent on the front from Lotto Soudal? So, Romain Bardet's attack looks like, because that is the information on your screen, that is the very front of the race. I'm looking for Bardet and the rest of them.
There they are at the back. So yeah, they've just been passed, swept by. Thomas de Gent going from the front again. Bob Youngle's on his wheel. Bardet there on the right of the screen. So this has now become a lot more complicated for everyone. Apart from the guy who knows he's got the best sprint, because none of these guys are pure sprinters. Bruno riding at Youngle's can climb and can sprint.
Floris Tatier is still there from Lotto NL Jumbo. I think Jarlinson Pantano is the Trek Segafredo rider. De Gent on the front, Jungel's on his wheel. Bardet's still there, Nicolas Roche is still there. Danny Navarro is represented, and so too is Ivan Garcia. I think that's the selection. I think that is it. And in their midst, and Rui Costa, of course, one will emerge as the winner of today's stage. There are former stage winners of the Vuelta in their midst. The Cofidis rider who you're looking at, Danny Navarro, is a 2009 stage winner, so 8 years ago. Bob Jungels has yet to win on the Vuelta. Nicolas Roche, of course, has won stages on the Vuelta before. Interestingly, surprisingly perhaps, Rui Costa has never won a stage win on the Vuelta. Someone's going to make their mark. Thomas de Gent, as you know, I think is hunting for his first ever stage win on the Vuelta.
So Nicolas Roche going again. He knows it's the only option he has. Although he does have quite a good sprint, I think he's decided that this is his best plan. Navarro jumping after him, and is it Thomas de Gent again?
That's Floris Tatier, I think, from Lotto. Or is it de Gent? Trying to see that the colours are a bit hard to read there, but Nicolas Roche is on the front.
This is a dangerous move.
And you're absolutely right, it's Thomas de Gendt.
This is a dangerous move of those three riders off the front. Now Nicolas Roche, again, much like Thomas de Gendt. There is Edward Toynes was there waiting. So now Edward Toynes is now leading Alberto Contador, and he's got to do like he did the other day. He's going to have one of the hardest 10-odd kilometres of his life, probably more, actually 14 kilometres, to bring back Alberto Contador to the line and put him back in podium contention.
You cannot take your eyes off this bike race at the moment. You can't take your eyes off it. Action at the front, action further down the road. Let's concentrate on this, though. This is for the stage. Nicolas Roche has Danny Navarro and Thomas de Gendt on his wheel. How is he going to tactically get the better of them? We've seen Nicolas Roche in this position so many times over recent years. Remember when he was jumped by Thomas Vauclair on the Tour de Yorkshire, on the seafront in Scarborough. Similar circumstances. On that occasion, he only had one rider to worry about. Here, as they round that left-handed turn and line up with 600 metres to go, he has got half of that original breakaway lining up on his wheel, and he's in the worst possible place now, Nicolas Roche.
Now, interesting, Garcia, the young Spanish rider's way, has chosen Rui Costa's wheel. He's anticipating that Rui Costa is the smartest guy in this move, although they're a bit far back, that's sixth wheel. But Garcia has Rui Costa, who looks like he's going to have to launch off soon, on Jungel's wheel.
So Nicolas Roche leading out Danny Navarro. There goes Jarlinson Pantano. Thomas de Gendt opens up down the middle. Bob Jungels just boxed out of position then, and here comes Garcia, the man who does have a fast finish. Remember, he finished very strongly on the Scheldt Price. He is a sprinter, but is de Gendt going to get past him? Thomas de Gendt finally claims victory, and yet again, Lotto Soudal score, this time from a big group in a breakaway, and this time it was Thomas de Gendt.
That just came down to who was the fastest sprinter. Garcia launched a sprint so well and caught out Rui Costa. De Gendt was perfect. He reacted and used Garcia's sprint. Now Garcia, probably an error of youth, went a bit too soon. There's Pantano coming up, but it was De Gendt that actually timed that to perfection.
Contador just gets onto the front briefly and allows Toons a little bit of respite, an opportunity to drink, as then the rider with number 2 on his back, the sprinter from Trek Segafredo, gets back on the front and does his job for his team leader. 35 seconds, so they're eating into Contador's advantage on this descent.
I don't think, but it's always at the initial riding when the Sunweb hit the front, always will bring it back. But we saw the other day Edward Toynes is very strong, and obviously Alberto Contador as well. They've still got a decent amount of times to finish to hold that gap, because Sunweb you would expect might burn out, because I'm not sure Team Sky don't need to be as committed behind unless Chris Froome's decided that that's the case, because if it does happen, then there's less chance, because that means there could be 4, 5, 6 riders trying to bring back those 2 riders. So unfortunately for these 2 riders, they're saying on race radio it's actually 25 seconds, not 30 seconds, and that will mean they're now in sight of that group behind, who, there you go, as the neutral service car is pulled out because the gap is less than 30 seconds, that won't be helping their morale. But at the same time, that does move that car from the vision of the peloton, which is always a very easy target to lock onto.
The shape of that group of favourites, what remains of the peloton, though, tells its own tale, doesn't it? Everyone strung out single file.
I mean, this does as well just go to show the type of character that Contador has. When you have arguably one of the hardest climbs in bike racing tomorrow, where the race finishes atop it, and you might have thought that any sane bike racer would have saved themselves a little bit, and especially when there's a chance for him to win the stage there and really kind of finish his career on such a high. He's not interested. He still can't hold himself back and is attacking today.
And he's riding on emotion, isn't it? That's become, I think, more and more obvious over the last week or so of racing, that it's getting to Contador a bit, and so far it's expressing itself positively.
He's always been like that as a bike racer. I've seen him so many times when he's been off GC and always angry at himself, lighting up races from situations you would have never expected a rider of his caliber to go from, going early and really destroying races, almost get out of some weird sadistic pleasure. But this time it's always constructive. Yep. All these moves he's doing, although they're emotional, they are ending up being very logical decisions. If you've got the legs to do it, he's pulling it off because he's just sneaking bits of time away from everybody all the time.
So just over 5 kilometres to go. Edward Toynes working for Alberto Contador. Toynes, from the original breakaway, sat up and waited and must have virtually come to a complete halt and probably stood by the side of the road for 5 or 10 minutes waiting for this group of favourites and his team leader to get to him. Contador attacking at the foot of the final climb of the day, meeting up just over the top of that climb with Edward Toynes and holding on to a diminishing advantage. That's because he is a live and active and proper threat, Alberto Contador, to both Katusha and Sunweb's ambitions, and so Katusha and in particular Wilco Kelderman's team of Sunweb are throwing riders to the front of this group and bringing it back slowly now to within about 17 seconds, having been up as high as about 50 seconds to a minute further up on the descent. And to this matter, every second, I mean, it's a cycling cliche, but every second really does count here, because if they can neutralise this attack completely and leave him with nothing to gain at the end of today's stage, that will matter, because every second is going to be hard fought for on the Angliru tomorrow. 2.8k to go. And it is all going to come back together again. I think particularly when they turn onto the seafront and they hit that headwind that affected the sprint of Ivan Garcia, and into which Nicolas Roche battered himself with everyone sitting on his wheel. I think that might be the final undoing of Edouard Theuns and Alberto Contador, if they even have an advantage at that point, because they are clawing them back, and they've got there. Sunweb and Team Sky have closed it down, shut it down, a little gesture from Contador pointing to the fact that it's all been clawed back again, and for the umpteenth time now he is attacked and been hauled back in.
And this has made a stage which again could have been more of a transitional stage, if you like, into a very hard day's racing. The time gap to that breakaway that made it to the finish line at one point was nearly 17 minutes. And so from when Team Astana started riding team classification to Alberto Contador's attack, they brought back what is going to have been about 5 or 6 minutes in the last 50-60 Ks. So that means the peloton has been racing hard for that final part of the race, which again is going to accumulate fatigue for tomorrow.
Good work done in the service of Wilco Kelderman there by the two riders from Sunweb. And Team Sky as ever just swarming all over the front. So a relatively scare-free, trouble-free day for Chris Froome. It was the other riders around him in the general classification who had to be concerned by Alberto Contador today, not Chris Froome. Now, because of the big size of the breakaway today, there will be obviously no bonus seconds available. And I wonder if any of these GC riders, well, whether they'll all just roll over or whether one of them will try and make a point just to ride away from the group and steal a few seconds here or there. Remember how close it is between Kelderman and Zakharine. In particular, those two riders between third and fourth. Only 12 seconds separate them at this point, and they're quite evenly matched. Zakharine probably, with tomorrow in mind, the better climber on form.
Well, the thing is as well, that was a clear indication that Alberto Contador is out-climbing Zakharine.
Yep.
And not easily, obviously, but he did put 40 seconds into Zakharine, and Zakharine tried his very best to go with Alberto Contador. So that's encouraging for Contador for tomorrow, and as I said, very scary for Zakharine.
Inside 1 kilometre to go as they hurtle up the road to the seafront. That's it in the distance, a roundabout will guide them left, and then they'll line themselves up for 600 metres towards the line. It's all come to nothing after more fireworks today in this group. An attack from Contador, pegged back. Edouard Theuns playing his part in that. Counter-attack by Uno Zakharine, also brought back. Kelderman's team working hard. Team Sky unruffled, unbothered. Bahrain Merida playing the breakaway card with Ivan Garcia and having a quiet day in the general classification. But Alberto Contador, in the mood that he's in, just doesn't have a quiet day at the moment. He has once again lit up this GC race. As they look at each other, eye each other up, and it looks like no one is going to risk anything. So, David Lopez and Salvatore Puccio just guiding their team leader through stage 19 of the Vuelta. Stage 20 is the last big battle, and that'll happen tomorrow. Wout Poels, the man just talking to Chris Froome there, in 2011, are they going to try something daft here? I don't think they are. Wout Poels actually finished ahead of Chris Froome in 2011 on the Angliru, but he'll be working all out for Chris Froome tomorrow, when they are hoping, and he is hoping, that they will win the Vuelta. All the favourites cross the line in Gijon as one.
And a mere 12 minutes after the winner, who was not Spanish, Thomas de Gendt and Jarlinton Pantano both got past Ivan Garcia after he started the sprint. 9 of the original breakaway group finished together on the same time. Now, there are points at the finish for the first 15 places. Matteo Trentin picked up 2 for 14th in the green jersey competition. The favourites all rolled in together after catching Contador.
Edward, the same trick as a few days ago almost worked. You were developing quite a partnership with Alberto Contador.
Was a pity today. It was a lot of headwind in the final downhill, and it was not really a downhill. You had to still push a lot, and that's why I think the guys in the back were still with a big group, and that's why they had a little bit of advantage on us. So we tried again. It didn't work, but we keep fighting.
Do you think Alberto has reached the point where it's purely almost about enjoyment now, and it doesn't almost matter whether he finishes on the podium or not?
Oh, it would be really nice if he finishes on the podium. I mean, you can see he's enjoying racing and he's riding really strong. So he's trying every day. If it works, the better. If it doesn't work, it's pity. But I mean, the atmosphere in the team is really good, and we enjoy our dinners together and making fun. And we're making fun in the race also. So yeah, we try.
Now, this was all Spanish television could supply by way of a podium shot of the stage winner. So let's just hear from him.
So Thomas, you've finally done it, the triple of stage wins in all 3 major tours, but I bet you thought that it was never going to arrive, didn't you?
No. The first week I was not feeling that good, and then the second week I did not really have the chance to go for a victory. And no, the last days it was always somebody else of the team who was in the break, and I thought it was not going to happen anymore this year. But today was the last chance. Tomorrow on the Angliru, I'm a bit too fat for the Angliru, so today was the last chance, and I had to do the sprint of my life to win. So I gave it my all, and I'm really happy that I could finish it off.
Now, by scoring on the first 2 mountains today, Davide Villela has given himself a 20-point head start over Miguel Angel Lopez heading into the last of the mountains tomorrow. And Matteo Trentin cut 6 points off Chris Froome's lead in the green jersey competition with his work in the break. Any points Froome scores tomorrow will be as a byproduct of trying to cement his win overall. Here's how things stand heading into the deciding stage of the Vuelta. Froome has a lead of 1:37 over Vincenzo Nibali. There's still 12 seconds between Wilco Kelderman and Dilnor Zakarin, but the pair of them might be as worried about Alberto Contador as they are about each other. Miguel Angel Lopez would have to attack before the final climb if he was interested in going for the mountains jersey. Wout Poels is the only man in the top 10 who won't be riding for himself. He'll be working to keep Chris Froome in the red jersey and covering the attacks that are bound to come.
Chris, when Alberto Contador attacks every day, is the part of you that says not today, or wants to say not today, Alberto?
Well, I certainly didn't have any inclination to follow him today, especially with tomorrow in mind. I mean, you've got to take your hat off to him, though. I mean, he's tried almost every single day of the race, and today was no different. He took off up the road and almost had a minute at one stage. So a lot of guys started worrying about their podium positions, and of course for us, we don't want him coming back into the game too much either.
But of course it's hard not to get dragged into that battle for podium positions, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's in a way it's good because it does mean that our guys are getting a bit of help from other teams as well, looking after their podium positions. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult watching one of your fiercest rivals taking off up the road and just sitting back and watching him take that time. So yeah, it's difficult, but I think it was the right thing to do today with tomorrow in mind.
The Angliru, the big showdown tomorrow, Chris. How confident are you and what do you expect from your rivals?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good. I think the team's good. I don't think it's just going to be about the Angliru tomorrow. I think there's some very tough climbs before then, tricky descents as well. 120 kilometer stage, so it's very short. Could be very explosive from the start already tomorrow.